The true story of El Dorado and the Aztecs, gold, myths, and incredible adventures. Wait, before you run off to watch another failed cooking tutorial, listen up. Today, we're diving into a story full of greed, mystery, and tons of shiny gold. Literally, I'm going to tell you how the Aztecs, the conquistadors, and the legend of El Dorado got tangled in one of the most spectacular and pathetically misunderstood tales in human history. Hit that like button, subscribe, and get ready to feel at least 5% smarter than you were 5 minutes ago. Picture this: you're a Spanish conquistador in the 16th century. You smell terrible, you're confused, clanking around in heavy armor, chasing after cities made entirely of gold. Spoiler, you're not going to find them. When the Spaniards arrived in the Americas, they heard rumors of a city made completely of gold. A city so rich that even the beggars could leash their dogs with golden chains. Boom, greed exploded harder than your Monday morning anxiety. But reality, my friend, was way more complicated and way more interesting. For the Aztecs, or more accurately the Mexica, gold wasn't money. For them, gold was the sweat of the sun, something sacred, something that shone with spiritual power. They didn't buy tacos or rent apartments with gold. They used it for offerings, to decorate the gods, to show respect. In religious ceremonies, Aztec priests would cover statues of the gods with gold sheets so thin they looked like pure light. Imagine that. Gold wasn't just a symbol of divine power, it meant fertility, life, and victory. But of course, when Hernán Cortés and his sock-smelling gang saw all that shine, they thought, "Cha-ching, we're rich, baby," the most expensive cultural misunderstanding in history. When Cortés arrived at Tenochtitlan, he couldn't believe his eyes: organized markets, canals, massive temples, and gold everywhere. Moctezuma, the emperor, gifted gold as part of Mexica hospitality customs. Imagine handing your 75-inch TV to a guest just because you're being polite. And what did Cortés do? Said, "Thanks, now I'll invade you." Because obviously, when someone gives you gold, the logical response is to destroy their civilization. While they looted Tenochtitlan and turned the city into rubble, the Spaniards started hearing rumors of even more golden cities to the south. No one told them these were metaphorical stories, but honestly, these guys weren't winning any critical thinking awards. Thus began the obsession with El Dorado. Fun fact for your brain: El Dorado wasn't originally a city. It was a man, a tribal chief who, according to legend, would cover himself in gold dust and dive into a sacred lake as part of a ritual. But a golden man didn't sound nearly as profitable as an entire city of gold. So the conquistadors, true drunken storytellers, upgraded the myth. From then on, countless expeditions took off like headless chickens searching for El Dorado. Francisco Orellana, Gonzalo Pizarro, Sir Walter Raleigh, all of them, they plunged into jungles, rivers, and mountains, hoping to stumble across a city made of gold and become richer than Jeff Bezos. The result: diseases, starvation, attacks, disappointment, and 0 cities of gold. An endless chain of oops, maybe it's further south or north, or maybe on another planet. Meanwhile, the Mexica watched as their treasures were melted into bars, shipped off to Spain, and lost in shipwrecks. And here's another juicy detail: most of the gold the conquistadors stole never even made it to Europe. Tons of it sank with ships swallowed by storms, pirates, or just plain bad luck. Oh, the golden irony. The real scandal wasn't just the loss of gold, it was the loss of knowledge, of cultural soul. Greed didn't just destroy temples, it wiped out libraries, traditions, herbal medicine knowledge, astronomical maps. The conquistadors saw massive pyramids and thought, great, they must have hidden gold inside. Spoiler: the real treasure was the knowledge carved into every stone. Meanwhile, the Aztecs had their own myths about sacred places of spiritual riches. The myth of Tenochtitlan, for example, spoke of a paradise of abundance, but abundance of wisdom, not shiny metals. The conquistadors heard abundance, and their medieval capitalist brains translated it to tons of gold to buy castles and bad wine. Every expedition in search of El Dorado ended worse than the last. They fell sick, killed each other, or simply vanished into the jungle forever. Some claimed El Dorado wasn't in South America but in Central America. Others swore it was hidden in magical mountains or beneath secret lakes. A famous expedition led by Francisco de Orellana ended up discovering the Amazon River, all because they were chasing a golden rumor. And Sir Walter Raleigh, he ended up tried and executed by the English crown, partly for hyping up his fairy tales of golden cities. The reality: El Dorado was more a human dream than an actual place. But hey, don't let that ruin your mental image of sweaty men fighting mosquitoes for tavern stories. Meanwhile, Europe went absolutely nuts over American gold. They flooded their economies with coins, jewels, luxuries, and also brutal inflation. Turns out dumping tons of gold into an economy without productive backing just wrecks everything. Bravo, financial geniuses. The so-called price revolution in Europe. Yep, partly the fault of all that stolen American gold. All because someone misunderstood that the sweat of the sun was meant to be honored, not melted down and sold. Today, the myth of El Dorado still shows up in movies, books, and video games. We're still obsessed with the idea of hidden riches, lost paradises, treasures that could change our lives. Even in games like Uncharted and Assassin's Creed, you're chasing the fantasy of lost treasure. But you know what? The real El Dorado is the forgotten knowledge, the overlooked culture, the stories they didn't want to tell us because they preferred selling us a shinier, faster, more profitable version. So next time you think about searching for gold, search for wisdom instead. And if you made it this far, smash that like button, subscribe and comment. I'd search for Tamanchen, so I know you're a true legendary explorer. See you in the next video, where we'll keep smashing myths and hunting for treasures that are actually worth it.